Nobody started Hinduism, it just existed. High in the Himalayan mountains, at the source of the Ganges River, a solitary monk meditates and prays.
Shivoham, Shivoham, Shivaswarupo.
Now the monks, known as sadhus, are coming out of their remote retreats and walking for weeks down the winding mountain roads. No one commands them to set forth. No one calls for them to come down from the mountains. Throughout the world, men and women are drawn to a spiritual life. In India, these seekers of spiritual knowledge leave the world by their own choice and set out to find a teacher who will guide them on their journey through life. Many of them live a harsh, solitary existence in caves and huts hidden away in the depths of the Himalayan mountains, practicing an ancient tradition of spiritual discipline. They follow the route of the Ganges River as it winds through steep-sided valleys fed by hundreds of tiny streams. A sadhu, sitting under a tree, offers spiritual teachings to interested travelers.
आपने जन्म लिया 100 साल पूरे यदि यह गांठ समझ लो निपट गया था हैं झूठे सत्य जाय भी नहीं जाने रात्रि का भ्रम में और रबड़ आदि रस्सी पड़ी हुई है और प्रातः काल जाग तक नहीं देख लेगा वहां तक शुद्धिकरण नहीं होगा और सपना आया तो सपने की स्थिति सपना जहां तक रहेगा तकलीफ रहेगी मस्तक काट रहा कोई कुछ भी नहीं तो झूठे सत्य वह झूठा है तो भी सत्य मान के दुख हो रहा है.
In this vast mountain range, philosophy and spiritual truths are constantly discussed and contemplated. It is a strong belief of the Hindu culture that renouncing the world and retreating to the Himalayas during the final stage of one's life will lead to a heightened state of consciousness and enlightenment about the purpose of human existence. These journeys involve great hardship, but also bring the sadhus into contact with countless other wandering mendicants. The sadhus camp under the open sky as they follow a journey that has been taken by spiritual seekers for thousands of years. Whether they travel in company or on their own, the goal is always the same: spiritual enlightenment. The river Ganges flows out of the Himalayan mountains past the city of Haridwar, where the famous bathing ghat Hakipuri is located, the focal point for the pilgrimage of millions of people who are coming here to bathe during the 3 months of the Kumbha Mela. On the valley floor beside the river, a city of tents is slowly being established to shelter and feed the expected pilgrim masses. The tent city is pitched in open fields stretching for many kilometers along either side of the Ganges River. Camps are also set up on the sandy river flats. Here there will also be large bamboo pavilions for lectures and discourses, and many temporary shrines of worship. India is a land of immense cultural and spiritual riches, with a strong philosophical wisdom that has developed over many thousands of years, nurtured by a culture that has always praised the importance of spiritual knowledge. The Kumbha Mela is the most important gathering of all the spiritual masters, attracting millions of spiritual seekers in search of the opportunity to meet with pilgrims, teachers and philosophers from the many Hindu sects. In the late winter season, preparations are nearing completion. The roads look empty now, but during the 3 months of the river festival, it is estimated that 20 to 30 million pilgrims will pass through Haridwar. With a budget of $40 million, the government is providing the infrastructure of roads, lighting, hospitals, water supply, toilet facilities, and temporary bridges. The Haridwar community knows the importance of this event and put in many months of hard work to get the site ready. Throughout this ancient city, ashrams and temples are scrubbed, painted, and set in order. Large meeting halls are built with bamboo, straw, and canvas to be lit with ornate chandeliers. Buildings and camps are decorated with strings of twinkling lights, creating intricate patterns in the cool night air. In many ways, the Kumbha Mela is an immense spiritual university that dates from thousands of years ago. In the camps and ashrams, teachers and pilgrims meet each other.
I think what the Kumbha Mela does is brings these holy men from around the world, especially around India, to one place for a period of 2 or 3 months, and then it draws seekers from around the world. And I think the confluence of the two, or the meeting of the two, is the greatest thing that happens at the Kumbha Mela.
This ancient river festival was formalized more than 1200 years ago by Adi Shankaracharya, one of India's greatest teachers, who directed that all the Hindu sects should come together once every 12 years. Pilgrim trains provided by the government bring millions of seekers to the Kumbha Mela, some riding on the roofs of crowded carriages. Day and night, seekers pour into Haridwar. The Kumbha Mela is where all notion of class or social status is put aside. It is the great social leveler. People that would never normally meet harmoniously blend together into an endless stream of humanity. Many of them have traveled for weeks and months to get here, worn, poor and hungry, but sustained by their faith. These gatherings are a mixture of joy and traditional formality. This is the only time that many of the great men and women of knowledge are available to the average pilgrim in what has become the largest mass participation event in the world.
To make appear, to make manifest true love for all beings. This is the main purpose of this Kumbh Mela. After 12 years at least, we should sit together, we should talk together, we should discuss together, and we should understand together oneness.
The mythology of the Kumbha Mela dates from prehistoric times when the gods and demons churned the ocean of the world using a mountain as a whisk and a giant snake as a rope. Out of the ocean arose a large pot known as a kumbh, containing the nectar of immortality. After a fierce battle between the gods and the demons, one of the gods, disguised as a bird, escaped with the kumbh. And as he fled, a drop of the nectar fell to earth at Haridwar, sanctifying the bathing ghat of Har Ki Puri for all time. Pilgrims frequently chant devotional songs to celebrate their good fortune of being able to walk on this sacred site. Other pilgrims sit quietly at the water's edge, deep in prayer and meditation.
It's an ancient practice that was reinfused by Adi Shankara to bring the Hindus together and train them and teach them and give them a taste of the philosophy and the dharma of the Hindu religion, so that people, as they get modern and get lost in the modern things of life, that they would have the opportunity to sort of reconnect to the teachings, to the holy men.
Hindus believe that the Ganges River is a living spiritual being that has descended from heaven. This small group perform an elaborate ceremony honoring the river as a goddess by chanting Sanskrit phrases and casting offerings into the swift-flowing waters. At the many temples throughout Haridwar, pilgrims come to pray and make offerings. Some of these temples have steps going down to the Ganges River. Here, the pilgrims bathe, with total faith in the spiritually energizing power of the river water. In a country the size of India, especially in ancient times when travel was difficult, this gathering of spiritual masters and students for a period of 3 months every 12 years was an important process of unifying this diverse religion. Hinduism is a sophisticated philosophy called Sanatana Dharma. In English, it would be described as the eternal universal truth, with humanitarian values that still hold with philosophers and theologians today.
What does Sanatana Dharma want to give us, show us, teach us? I think simply it wants us to live a wholesome life. World over today, people are trying to be organic for themselves, for the earth, for air, for water, for all of these reasons. And I think that the Sanatana Dharma also tried to teach us to be holistic, to be organic, without quite using those terms or those words.
Nobody started Hinduism. It existed, and it says that all people, all lives have a right to live or promote itself. Life must be promoted. Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkham apnuyat. May disease and suffering come to no one. May all be happy. May all reach this stage of perfection. And this is called Hinduism.
At campsites around Haridwar, sadhus, swamis, and the leaders of the 10 Hindu sects prepare for the entrance procession that announces their arrival at the Kumbha Mela. Each sect has its own traditions and formalities. In the camp of the Juna sect, thousands of sadhus of this spiritual path come together to honor their spiritual masters simply by sitting in their presence. Many of the sadhus of the Juna sect are known as Nagababas. They are very individualistic and observe the ancient ascetic rituals of going about naked, wearing ashes, and performing fire sacrifices. They are one of the oldest sects in India, with traditions dating from more than 3,000 years ago. Lines of naked Nagababas march at the head of the parade. They are total renunciants, having no possessions and no attachment to the world. The naked holy men are very highly respected and loved, as well as feared, for the great supernatural powers they possess. They follow an ancient tradition of studying spiritual scriptures practicing austere yoga disciplines and mastering the skills of martial arts. In past centuries, these naked holy men formed militant groups that defended the Hindu faith against foreign invaders, and the Hindu community has never forgotten their sacrifice. The 10 Hindu sects escort images of their supreme deities and their spiritual masters on this grand procession. In this way, they announce their arrival at the Kumbha Mela and show their traditions and strength. This holy man displays his long hair that has not been cut since the day of his initiation as a young boy, a sign of his dedication to the spiritual path that he follows. The elders of the Udasan sect are given lumps of rock sugar from a silver tray, a traditional gesture of welcome. The Udasan faith was founded 500 years ago by Sri Chand, the son of the Sikh master Guru Nanak. Today, they still honor the teachings of the Sikh Book of Knowledge, the Guru Granth Sahib. They don't marry, but live a celibate life focused on their spiritual quest. As the parade of holy men winds through the streets, garlands of marigold flowers are given as a gesture of welcome and respect. The entrance procession is a crowded celebration, welcoming the many different sects of the Hindu faith. It becomes a joyful exchange of greetings. The people honor the holy men, and the holy men bless the pilgrims, monks, sadhus, and general public that line the roadway. The parades are accompanied by extremely loud brass bands that look as though they just came out of a Bombay film. Even young schoolgirls join in the parade with their own traditional dance. This large, friendly elephant, carrying a Sikh holy man, raised his trunk in greeting. Although the Sikhs follow their own traditions, they are an important part of the Hindu community. Throughout India, the gentle elephant is universally loved, and as we moved along the street, the elephant was constantly on the lookout for something to eat, such as a banana offered by someone in the crowd, a tasty tree branch, or a tray of rock sugar. The public welcomed the holy men with great love and respect as they embraced this opportunity to be in their company for even a brief moment. The parades last all day, accompanied by demonstrations of martial arts and stunts such as a naked sadhu towing a jeep with his penis to demonstrate his power and transcendence of sexuality. They are all here for the same purpose, to celebrate the unity of their spiritual belief. In India, these holy men and women are given the highest respect. Here, these sadhus and swamis are referred to as saints. This was puzzling, so Swami Shivendra Puri was asked if they are the same as the saints we have in the Western culture.
We have got different type of saints. Those who have renounced the world and living this life, we call them saint. And because they are living their saintly life.
In India, there are thousands of men and women who raise themselves above worldly sensual pleasures. They reach a state of inner peace through becoming one with their own soul. These people are considered to be very near to God, which is also known as universal consciousness.
There are a few who came on earth to bless the humanity, like Shankaracharya, like Ramanandacharya, like Ramanujacharya, like Christ, like Muhammad. They are superhuman. They are. Sometimes Muslim can say that Muhammad was mine. Christians can say that Christ was mine. Hindus can say that Ramanujacharya, Vallabhacharya, Shankaracharya is mine. But actually they came on earth for human being. That's why everybody knows it. So such type of personality, such type of realized person used to come in the Kumbh Mela to bless the human being. That is the main thing. Whether we could recognize or not, that is another thing.
Many of these holy men live in isolated caves and huts scattered across India, and probably only leave their retreats at the time of the Kumbh Mela. And the most extreme renunciants are the Nagababas. They are naked, except for the sandalwood ash which covers their body. Apart from being an effective protection against heat, cold, and insect bites, the ash helps them to live in the world resisting temptation by reminding them that they too will eventually become ashes.
They live without clothes in rainy season, in winter, in summer. They do penance. That's why the people has got very good regard for them. And they usually used to come to see the Nagas, especially in the Kumbh Mela.
Yoga exercises enables them to endure their life of detachment from the world and gives them the power to perform great feats of physical flexibility and mental awareness. With great ease, they can fold their bodies into the most difficult of yoga postures.
Nagas don't have senses of their body, and that's how they become Naga. They don't have any attachment. In India, we respect a person with money also, yes, of course, but we respect more the person without money. Nagas are without any possession. Even clothes are possession. They are without that possession also. They can sleep anywhere, they can lie down anywhere. They don't have to bother for anything. They can just concentrate on their goal.
During the entrance procession, the Nagababas are enthusiastically welcomed by hundreds of thousands of people who line the roads and shower them with flower petals and offerings of fruit and garlands of marigold flowers. These naked holy men are only seen during the Kumbh Mela, and when the Kumbh Mela is finished, they will disappear. They see the world with a vastly different vision to most of us. To them, the world is of no importance. They are trying to be completely detached from the world and from their body. Many of the yogis at the Kumbh Mela sit for hours beside their sacred fire, silently repeating their mantras and prayers. This is a very traditional form of yoga, and after years of practice, will establish the yogi in a high state of consciousness. In mid-February, groups of pilgrims appear on the streets, carrying on their shoulders a decorated bamboo pole with small bottles of Ganges river water suspended at either end. Attached to the poles are tiny bells that jingle as they move along the road. Some have small pictures of their favorite deity attached at either end, and some have small green plastic parrots perched on the top. These pilgrims walk for days and weeks, for hundreds of kilometers back to their villages.
Just to see the simplicity in their devotion, I think is the greatest lesson all of us can take, whether Indians or Westerners, to see these simple folk who live in small huts in villages come hundreds of kilometers by bus and then walk that same distance back, and just to take the Ganges water back to their temple, whether it is at their home, in their village, and then bathe the deity, the idol, with that water. That is the purpose of their carrying the water at the time of Shivaratri. So I think the greatest lesson is just the simple, pure devotion. Because as I read the scriptures, study the scriptures, and read the stories of holy men who have experienced the divinity, who have experienced the love of God, what really has given them the experience is their pure, simple devotion.
One of the main objectives of the pilgrims is to bathe at the sacred site of Hakipuri, where the devout believe Lord Vishnu left an imprint of his feet. At this ancient bathing site, tiny boats made of flowers are set afloat on the Ganges, cast adrift with the prayers and wishes of the faithful. Each evening, a spectacular fire ceremony honors the spirit of the river, known as Mother Ganga. Among the many practices of devotion at the Kumbh Mela, singing and chanting is perhaps the most striking and evocative. An ecstatic song of praise to God is sung by the Bauls of Bengal, a nomadic tribe of minstrels. Here, the culture in the form of music and the religion are one. The song is their offering to God and the Guru seated peacefully on his throne. The Kumbh Mela is a great social affair, where the leaders of different groups are honored at crowded gatherings. Here, the pilgrims and sadhus offer garlands of marigold flowers to the main guest, as small dishes of sweet fruit salad are given to everyone present. Throughout India, there is a gracious mutual relationship between the people and these holy men. It seems that an appreciation of their selfless acts, or even acknowledgement of their life's commitment, the sadhus' meager needs are provided for by villagers and city folk all over the country. The task of feeding the sadhus throughout the 3 months of the Mela is no small feat. Literally millions of people are fed daily, in feasts that are prepared and served at hundreds of camps and ashrams every day. Thousands of sadhus patiently sit on the ground in long lines. The meals are quickly and efficiently served by teams of volunteers who take about 20 minutes to serve the gathering. The free meals are donated by wealthy devotees as a means to gain good merit for their actions. The sadhus offer prayers for the well-being of the donor, who also gives them cloth shawls and small amounts of money. After they have eaten, spontaneous songs of praise arise from different sadhus. During the Kumbha Mela, many acts of charity are carried out. Under the guidance of Swami Nityananda, a team of volunteers set up a tent in the street outside his ashram, Shanti Mandir, where a free eye service is offered to sadhus and simple rural folk. Eye diseases are a major health problem in India, and the tent quickly fills with people eager to get expert medical care and attention. This particular eye camp was quite successful. 400 people came to have their eyes checked. It was discovered that 80 of them are going to need cataract surgery. 20 cataract surgeries will be done the same day. Another 35 patients are scheduled for surgery the next day, and all of the patients will be taken care of in 3 or 4 days. At Gangamata Eye Hospital outside Haridwar, Dr. Sanyal and Dr. Garg lead a skilled team in the delicate work of removing cataracts and implanting intraocular lenses. They work long hours on a production line basis, carefully restoring sight to many who never thought they would see clearly again.
When we talk about what is it that the Sanatana Dharma teaches, when it taught us to be kind to nature, to be kind to animals, to be loving to other human beings, I think what it was really teaching us was to take care of each other, that one needs the other to live.
For more than 15 kilometers along the banks of the Ganges River, the tent city welcomes a constant stream of pilgrims. The Hindu faith seems complex, presenting a multitude of gods. In this simple camp, pilgrims are sheltered by a sadhu who doesn't speak and is known as Moni Baba. Each evening, they sing to their idol. For them, it is the physical form of the unseen God. The final act of this ritual is to offer their salutations to Chandi Devi, the deity in the temple on the hill behind the camp.
We believe that the mind needs a form to focus upon. Now, if somebody was to tell you that just love yourself, but what is that self? We don't know, we cannot see it, we don't understand it now. But if there's a form that is given to that self, whether it is Shiva, Rama, Krishna, or the myriads of other deities, beings that we have, then it becomes easier. Then you know, well, this is the deity that I am drawn to, that I have affection for, that I have love for.
There is a way of devotion. These deities are not God. Is it? Deities are not God. Like clock is not time. But without clock you can know the real time.
I like to worship that truth in the form of Shiva. Somebody will like to worship that Satya or truth in form of Krishna. Somebody worship in the form of Christ, no problem. Somebody can worship it in the name of Muhammad, no problem. Truth is one. You can give it any name.
Plays of mythological stories explaining spiritual and moral teachings attract pilgrim audiences throughout the camps. The plays are performed by family groups, with many of the roles acted by young children. The most ornate production is performed in a grand pavilion for an enthusiastic audience who see these actors as the very incarnation of Krishna and his consort Radha. In the camp of the Bairagi sect, folk singers praise the sadhus. They sing that all of them, tall or short, are great saints. Many of the sadhus practice austere disciplines on a daily, long-term basis. These sadhus sit for hours under the 50-degree midday sun, surrounded by a circle of hot fires, deep in meditation. They are following a tradition that takes 18 years to complete. More fires are added each year until the final 2 years, when they meditate with a blazing pot of fire balanced on their head. This is a practice of penance known as tapasya.
Through that penance, they think that they will be able to control their mind. I don't have very happy translation of mind. So, we say antahkaran, chittavritti. They control their chittavritti through that penance, that's called tapasya. So willingly they undergo those sufferings Because of those sufferings, their mind does not go to the places where they do not want to send it. So it helps, but it's not the goal. It's the means and not the end.
This holy man has walked throughout India carrying a metal pot balanced on his head. It's a spiritual practice that his teacher instructed him to perform. To do this, he must maintain a steady posture with his mind totally focused on repeating the name of his chosen deity. Ramdas Kesri is a standing Baba, or Karashwari. For 6 years, he has remained standing. He does not sit or lie down at any time. He even sleeps standing up, supported by a small wooden platform hung from a pole, and will continue this penance until he has completed 15 years. Holy men, such as him, easily undergo this great hardship.
If you are doing it lovingly, then it's a joy.
Each day, learned teachers present lectures on different aspects of the spiritual journey. These gatherings are called satsangs, or being in the company of the truth. Pilgrims sit with focused attention as they contemplate the knowledge they hear. Some of these satsangs are small and intimate, such as in the simple camp of Brahmdev, who lovingly and patiently explains the meaning of the ancient scriptures. Other satsangs are held in large pavilions with audiences that can number in the thousands. In all of these satsangs, the universal truth that has been taught for thousands of years is described in its many different forms.
As an obstacle, we see it as a blessing.
This sadhu performs his daily worship by offering his prayers into a small sacred fire, along with a tiny spoonful of oil. During the Kumbha Mela, many different fire ceremonies are performed. These rituals are known as yagnas. Brahmin priests recite phrases in the ancient language of Sanskrit. In this way, they honor the deity that is invited to be at this gathering. The fire is regarded as the living spirit of the deity, to which pilgrims pray for the welfare and prosperity of the community. In this fire ceremony, conducted by Swami Nityananda, the goddess Saraswati, who represents divine wisdom, was invoked to bring peace to the world. The goddess, in the form of fire, gives life and devours life in a continuous cycle of birth and death. The pilgrims are able to silently offer their negative concerns into the fire, as well as their personal prayers and wishes. On the dusty river flat, inside a large open-sided bamboo pavilion, 1,000 Brahmins are seated around 100 flaming fire pits, into which they toss pinches of mixed seeds as they intone an ancient Vedic chant. This ritual, dedicated to the welfare of the whole world, goes on non-stop for 9 days. In this supercharged atmosphere, pilgrims circulate around the pavilion offering their prayers. The climax of the Kumbha Mela is determined by astrologers. The planetary alignment is in its most powerful phase. The atmosphere becomes charged with mantra and expectation as the day awakens to the sound of sacred chants coming from all directions. Since before dawn, millions of pilgrims have been streaming to the Ganges riverbanks. For 12 years, they have been waiting for this day to arrive. Up and down the river for more than 30 kilometers, pilgrims bathe in the waters that they believe are charged with spiritually healing powers. In the early morning, the leaders of the Awahan and Mahanivani sects offer their prayers to the river, accompanied by hundreds of their students. Families bathe together alongside complete strangers, as though they were all friends. An elderly lady pours Ganges water on her thumb, which she uses to imitate a sacred Hindu symbol of Lord Shiva. Even though the riverbanks are crowded, there is goodwill and joy amongst all the pilgrims. They are responding to their own inner call to be here, as they believe that participating in this enormous event is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The major procession to the bathing site of Hakipuri is led by two holy men carrying ancient spears, followed by thousands of Nagababas. The teachers and gurus of the 10 different sects are seated on gold and silver thrones, mounted on ox carts towed by their students. Teachers of the Bairagi sect ride on the roofs of cars and trucks. The procession moves past millions of pilgrims who have come to see this rare display of the greatest of India's holy men.
My good wishes, blessings to the whole of world on this auspicious occasion of Kumbh Mela.
Even though the crowds are enormous, they patiently stay behind flimsy wooden barriers. None would dare to cross the path of these sadhus and holy men, as it is considered a most disrespectful thing to do. Devotees chant ancient mantras and devotional songs as the procession moves towards the bathing site of Hakipuri. As the Nagababas cross the bridge leading to Hakipuri, they are enthusiastically greeted by waiting pilgrims who see these naked holy men as one of the forms of Lord Shiva. The procession makes its way down to the water's edge, led by the two holy men carrying the ancient spears. The supreme leader of the sect is first to bathe. Then, with a great rush, Nagas, sadhus and devotees enter the cold Ganges water, shouting their salutations to God and the spirit of the river. Before the day is finished, the first wave of pilgrims pack their belongings and head for the train station, content in the knowledge they have been blessed to be part of this great gathering of spiritual seekers. In 12 years, the pilgrims will gather again in Haridwar on the banks of the river Ganges, and as they have done for thousands of years, they will seek the knowledge of the wise ones and immerse themselves in the experience of their own inner consciousness.